Good morning. Thank you for joining me for this morning. I'm with Hudson River Computing. We'll be starting in just 1 minute. Welcome to the third of a series of 7 of presentations that Hudson River Computing is doing regarding the important criteria you need to know before selecting an ERP system or accounting system for your organization. Introductions, we're going to cover who we are, who is Hudson River Computing, what are the 7 important criteria for your ERP choice, kind of a brief overview, and then today we're going to get into what integration, why is integration important to your choosing a system. Then we'll have a short Q&A session. Hudson River Computing was founded in 1993 to concentrate on accounting software. And since then, we've been basically doing that with ERP, et cetera, since then. Our staff consists of experienced individuals that have accounting backgrounds, ERP, manufacturing, distribution, nonprofit experiences, as well as others. We also have programmers on staff as well. We're committed to selling and implementing high quality products with a high success rate. And we have the skill set available to us to do that, and yet we're small enough, yet you can still contact us as necessary. We carry 2 different products. We carry the Acumatica product line, which is a cloud-based ERP system, accounting system that will allow you to pretty much do a whole range of activities, such as everything from basic accounting to full-fledged manufacturing of field service or construction. We also deal with Microsoft Dynamics GP. It's been in the marketplace for a long time, and it's a great product. It's also got a wide range of functionality available. It is a premise-based product, so for the most part. So let's go on. The 7 criteria as we see them is we've covered 1 and 2 already in technology and functionality. Check those out on the website. Technology is important for obvious reasons. You don't want to be straddled with a product that is not technically current to some degree. The systems are in use for over 13 years on average. It's important, and that's true for all of these. Functionality obviously is important, needs to do what you need it to do. Okay, integration is our topic today. And basically, it's important to choose products that have a lot of integration capabilities in today's world. The days of rekeying information should not be a daily occurrence within your organization. Reliability, system is only as good as reliable as it is. It has to work for you. The vendor support, both from us and from the vendor itself, is important and critical for the ongoing support that you will need perhaps over time, from everything from simple how-tos to, gee, there was an update to Windows and we need a fix for this, those kind of things. How customizable is the product? Is it customizable? We'll talk more in detail at a later date. And then again, value. It's important not only to say, okay, how many dollars is it, but what do you get for the dollars that you're spending? Does it make you more efficient, et cetera, as you go through? So let's get started. Integration timeline. In the 80s, 1980 to 1988, we were typically on minis and mainframes, and this was, larger mid-sized companies, not very many small companies because of the dollars involved. It was expensive to operate a mini and a mainframe. On top of that, it was expensive to integrate. There was also other issues. There were times where it wasn't even possible to integrate electronically because you couldn't get the communications between 2 different systems because of different operating systems. For example, if you operated on a Burroughs versus an IBM machine, you might not be able to actually connect the 2 physically in order to get that communication to work to do that integration. So it became complicated very quickly. Additionally, there are not very many tools, so it ended up being a programming endeavor. All right. As time went on, we had the first range of PC text-based systems, and in the late 80s and into the mid 90s, and there were great systems that allowed smaller companies to get involved. So you had small to medium-sized companies for the first time automating and using computer systems for mostly accounting, but they did do some other distribution and things like that as well. Integration was still not always available. It wasn't always easy to do. And sometimes, again, you still had trouble with systems talking to each other. That started to go away, though, in that same time frame where you could still get them to talk. But the question is, did you have the tools to do the integration? A lot of the systems were closed and set there. And then many times you were limited to strictly, various text formats, going down in an ASCII format where, dates aren't dates anymore. They're basically text and common delimited files and things like that in order to get the data transferred from one system to another. And it worked fairly well, but it had some reliability issues, and it was hard to automate. In the mid 90s to 2013 or so, you had the PC-based graphical based products come out, and you started to have more integration availability. There were more tools available. Many times, depending on the system, you're still limited to text and Excel files, things like that for the integration. But you also had the opening up of being able to connect directly to SQL and things like that. There were still times where it was a lot more programming involved, but it was still much more capable than previous generations. In 2013 and above, where the cloud-based graphical systems came in, the modern systems that are out there, they're much easier to do. You can still do the text files, you can still do the Excel files and things like that. Not necessarily the preferred method of integration at this point. You also have the ability for an easier integration because there's more connectivity between the systems. They have set up different web services and things like that. And last but not least, it's more cost effective because you're not spending time on the technical aspect of it, you're spending time on the mapping of it. And the systems make it easier to map the data between the two systems than it had been in the past. So that's the timeline. So what are the integration options we have? We still typically in the best products still have import export. And many times it's included for free, okay? It's fairly easy to use, meaning that, you can say, oh, I have this field here, I have that field there, map them across, it comes in, okay? The other part, when it, not only ease of use is it important, but what can you import and export to and from? Okay, so the best systems allow you to pretty much enter into any data entry window you normally do, everything from master records to various transactions. Okay, some even let you update the transactions or the additional master records and things like that. They allow you to actually update the data in the system as well. So those tend to be a little bit better in some cases because it gives you more flexibility. And use case for that is you end up with a scenario where, it's a one-time thing, and the area code for the phone number changes for a whole region for a group of your customers. Being able to update just the area code for those, or just maybe the phone number, depending on the scenario, it makes it a lot easier to be able to just go and do an update versus having to do one at a time. All right, so there's some options there that didn't exist before. And then last but not least, can the utilities be automated? And most of the better systems now allow you to automate and set it up on timer in frequency as to when you want those updates to occur. Are they once a day? This is something that happens every hour, every 10 minutes, whatever. And what it does, it allows you to import and export between systems much more reliably than in the past for the basic utilities. The other option that sometimes you have is a quick upload. You're at the end of the year and you have a journal entry of 500 lines that you receive from the accounting firm from the audit, and you need to make that one entry. That's a once a year thing. So you don't want to set up a permanent integration for it because, the next year they send you the Excel spreadsheet that you normally get for that. And it'll be a scenario where, well, next year it's a different format because they left another column in or took another one out and those kind of things. So you want some easy utility allows you to just upload the line items for those kind of entries. And usually it would say, kind of a quick and dirty mapping where you just say, okay, this goes here, this goes there. In the mapping, it's just a quick upload. It doesn't save it for next year or anything like that. And then it loads the lines in, okay? Similar to a copy and paste type scenario thought process, okay? So it's kind of one-off. It's not something you do every day. Still, in both cases, all the data would be validated as it came into the system. So you don't end up with bad data within your system. Then, newer systems also have web services, and they're typically built right into the ERP product, and that's very common with cloud-based systems. This allows for an easier integration because you have a lot of data points are integrated or available. So you actually see these exposed web services, assuming you have security for them. So you can actually hit virtually anything within the system in order to be able to update, import, et cetera, as you go through. So the web services become very important. So those exposed integration points are more than they are typically in the past. It's used typically for consistent integration between systems. Again, it could even be a live integration. Hey, I enter a customer and a CRM system on the other side, and it automatically writes the customer in there when they create an order, and then puts the order in as well. Okay, so they can be, that automated, or it could be a scenario, again, could be a thing that happens on a timely basis, depending upon how you want to set up what you're doing. And then usually these are automated. Not to say that sometimes people don't want to control and they want a button to click to review information or double check or know the timing, but in general terms, these become much more automated as far as their fashion for web services and integration. Next, we typically have third-party products. We have basically interim products that basically have connections for both sides. And what they do is they allow you to have tools to be easily mapped. So they'll connect to the web service on one side, for example, for Acumatica with the web services. And then on the other side, they might connect to Salesforce, for example, or another product, and then it'll allow you to do that mapping in between. So you have, like, in this case, I just put a couple examples, there's quite a few out there. I picked Boomi and then I picked Jitterbit. They're both very commonly used for that type of scenario. Again, can be very automated. Okay, very much like the web service piece, but it requires less programming because parts of it are already done. So each side already has that programming for the connection done. All you're doing is the mapping, so it makes it a little easier. And then last but not least, you have the pre-built integrations. A lot of products have pre-built integration to various products, for example, Office, like with Excel and Outlook, Salesforce, DocuSign, other things. In the case of Acumatica, which is one of the products we carry, they actually have pre-built integrations for about 200 products. This is just a handful of them that are fairly popular. So, for example, Avalara for sales tax. If you deal with sales tax in a lot of states, very easy implementation. It takes about an hour or two to implement it for all 50 states. It's a couple check boxes and some basic setup. And then review and testing. So it actually comes up very quickly. And that's true of most of these. So for example, in the case of BigCommerce, if you're using websites for sales, those kind of things, it all ties together. DocuSign, I mentioned before. We also have things like Amazon Alexa, if you so desire, to give voice commands to your system. So it's that kind of thing that you have that capability of. Very powerful. So in summary, what we end up with is we actually have more options for integration than we used to. And that's important because depending upon the type of integration, that can be important for you because you have those quick one-offs, then you have the permanent ones that are going on a regular basis, then you have the things in between. And so those are important capabilities to have a variety of options for that for ease of use. Some cases, it can be easily done by the end user. It's easier to create seamless integration than it's ever been. Meaning that when you're all done, it's very easy to create the additional things to come in and go out of the system as necessary. Whereas before, it was harder because while they provided you some basic tools, they didn't have the same capability as they do today. It's less of a technical issue. Back in the 80s when you physically couldn't connect the systems together, big technical issue. Today, the technical issue is usually non-existent. It's more of a mapping issue that we have. Okay, which field goes here and in what circumstances that field get filled in a certain way. Those type of mapping issues, or maybe you have a scenario in between where you have a conversion table to say, okay, if the value on this side is X, then it goes to Y when it hits the other side. So it's those kind of things you can run into. Look for various tools for ease of use. Like I was saying in the beginning, you have more options. Look for the ones that have more than one option for integration. It's important because you want to have that flexibility because you're going to use the system for a number of years. And how does it work that way? And it goes back to choosing a product with multiple options for different purposes because you will need that at some point. And then last but not least, ensure all the tools that you use contain the validation of data as information comes into your system. Because if it doesn't, the last thing we want to have is, hey, we have a bad customer code and it's not working and it's caused an error. And then sometimes, depending on the system, it's hard to get it back out again if someone comes in with a bad error in it. And so the key to that is just making sure that you pay attention to that. So I'm going to keep this meeting short this time, this particular view. Let me check if there's any questions. But the idea of it is I'm trying to get an idea, give you an idea of here are the key points of what you need to look for in integration to the system you plan on implementing. Okay, so let me see if there's any questions. And I do not see any. So I hope you guys have a great day. And that ends our session for today. Thank you.